Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live stream. I have been getting so many emails for the help segments, and I felt really bad because with everything going on with my family and my dad and treatments and everything like that, it's been really hard to find time to film and edit videos. And then I was thinking, I'm like, why don't I just do these as a live stream? Like, I live stream almost every other video that I do. So, why don't I just live stream my help segments? You'd think it'd be a no-brainer. But anyways, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Amber Rose. Welcome to my channel. And you can find me basically anywhere on social media at The Religious Hippie, or you can find me on my official website at thereligioushippie.com. On my website, we have like economy rosaries, haters will be prayed for prayer journals. We have those haters will be prayed for ball caps that just came in last week, which I absolutely love. I go everywhere in it. And then we have some more limited drops coming up in May. So, with all of that being said, like I was saying earlier, yeah, the help segments were a huge hit. Back when I was filming and recording in my other studio. And since I haven't really had time to do that, I figured now would be a good time to start live streaming them. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I have a few pulled up. I'm hitting on 4 today because before, when I was editing them, I really only had time for 2 each. But now that I'm live streaming, I'm on a live stream usually for about an hour. So I like to be able to do a few more. So we're going to hit 4 today. These are older as well because, again, I wanted to go through and go through my help segment list. So if you guys do want to be a part of the help segment, I'm going to try and do these weekly again. But yeah, you can send me an email at thereligioushippie@gmail.com and just put help in the little tagline, the subject line at the top so that I know it's for the help segment. And please specify whether or not you would like to stay anonymous. Some people would prefer to stay anonymous and forget to say something, or they don't say anything at all. So it's good to just do that in general. So yeah, with all that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. Um, okay. So the first help segment is they wanted to stay anonymous. So they said, "Hello. I'm a single young adult male and I have been overthinking how to approach women. I remember you mentioning in your Matt Fradd interview that you didn't like men immediately asking you out on a date. Jason Everett's The Dating Blueprint has similar advice. It seems that men should generally be friends first or at least spend some time getting to know a girl before asking them out. If it is generally a bad idea to ask a girl out right away, how should a man who is only interested in a romantic relationship with a girl be friends first? Thank you for your help." Yeah, so I kind of addressed this a little bit in the previous live stream I just did about relationship or Catholic dating nightmares and how to avoid them. So definitely go back and check that one out because there's a lot of good information in that video in general. But when it comes to approaching women, yeah, most of the time, 9 out of 10 times that I've actually witnessed, women prefer to be pursued as a friend first. Because the thing is that as women, we have a lot of trust issues in today's world. We don't want to go out with a stranger necessarily. We want to be able to get to know you, even if it's over like a dating app or something. Just getting to have a phone call with you, or especially if it's on a dating app, being able to actually hear your voice, see you on a screen or something like that, like video chatting, is really important so that we feel safer. Because a lot of times, at least in my experience, I've had guys come up to me. This was before all the religious hippie stuff too, and they would just ask me out on a date, and I'm like, no. Like, first of all, it's not even that they weren't attractive. They were, but for me, I don't just go on dates. I don't just do that. I need to know you. I need to know who you are. I need to know your first name. I need to know these things, right? So for me, it was really important that I got to know the person first. And for Max and me, we had a few months. I think we had like 5 months of friendship before we actually started dating. And so that was so beneficial to figure out whether or not we were compatible. But in those times of hanging out with friends and groups and everything, we still gravitated towards each other and we were still able to ask each other questions. And we had hard questions, right? So Usually what I would suggest is you don't have to be friends for 5 months before you start dating. If you know she's single, you're single, and, you just wanna see if it'll work out, see if there's even a spark there to begin with on her end, because it needs to be both, and she wants to feel pursued, but at the same time, you wanna make sure that there's a spark there and that you're not getting friend zoned, because there's that, of course, too. There's the risk of that. But honestly, dating is just a risk. And I think too many people take themselves too seriously, and they get their hopes up in their head about who this person is or what they're going to be like. And when they're not that way, I know women do that, especially when they're not that way, they get disappointed when they finally go on a date with the guy, because they have this idea of who he is in their head, and then he doesn't actually line up with who they thought he was made up in their head. So avoid trying to put expectations on the person. This goes for guys and girls. Go on, see if they're open to maybe going out for coffee after meeting a couple times. It's not always how it goes, but I always say the best scenario is meeting in a group, hanging out with that group a few times. And then, if you guys have a natural draw towards each other, be like, hey, would you like to go get coffee sometime? Or maybe get a few people to go get coffee or something, and then you guys can chat. It just helps women feel a little bit safer, especially in the dating world today. Jonathan just said, as a father of 3 daughters, I am genuinely scared of how they might get emotionally involved with the wrong type of guys. And it's so true. We see that so often today. I was one of those. That's why I talked about the whole like dating nightmares in my last live stream, because I got wrapped up into that, and I shared a little bit about that, because it's a real issue. It's a real issue, especially in the Catholic world too. I mean, the guy that I dated that I mentioned, he was Catholic. So it's really important that we are discerning properly and that we're not making these decisions prematurely, um on people, right? Because we want to make sure we know the person and make sure we're even compatible enough. Not that it would be like a waste of time to go on a date with somebody you just met, but for the most part, if you're looking for marriage and things like that, a first date with somebody you don't really know, it's awkward at times. You don't know each other, you don't know your humor, you're feeling each other out. It can be awkward. So I would say if you liked a girl, approach her, introduce yourself like, I'm so and so, and da 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 da, whatever you want to say. And don't focus so much on yourself. Ask her about herself. Women love talking. I'm proof of this. I literally talk for an hour on here multiple times a week. So we love to talk, and we love to know that you're interested in what we're saying. So if she's talking about something you are not interested in, like, that's fine, but also keep in mind that if she's really passionate about it and you're disinterested in it, it's probably not gonna win you any brownie points. So, not to say you have to pretend, but, if that's something she's passionate about, you're not interested, she's gonna pick up on that. Um, so that could be a reason it's not compatible. It's really small reasons, and again, that's why I say, being friends first with a person is easier, because then any red flags that pop up, you catch them right away too. I think that's really something that people, they put on the rose-colored glasses, and suddenly those red flags look a little more pink or maybe a little more orange, and they're not really as red as you think they are, but they are, so I think it's really important to make sure that you are getting, um, I guess, what's the term? Informed decision when it comes to dating somebody, and you get that informed decision by being their friend first. And I know you kind of asked, like, how do you approach someone when you're only interested in that? And to be honest, it's like you just can't have that expectation of only being interested in dating, because the amount of guys that I knew who would come up to me and actually grab my hand to see if I had a ring on my ring finger, to see if I was taken or I had a promise ring, at least 5 times. Like, that is a lot of times for something like that to happen, and that was an instant ick. That was an instant turn off. I was like, "How dare you grab me? I don't know you. How dare you try to date me without even trying to get to know me?" Like, because if you're like, "Oh, I wanna date that person," you're solely basing that off of looks, right? Unless you observe them and you're like, "Oh, she really likes something I'm interested in, or this or that." Because most of the time we're attracted to somebody by how they look first. But if you don't get to know them on a personal level, you don't get to know their soul, you don't get to know what their interests are, what they love, that's kind of a shallow way of starting a relationship, in my opinion. So the amount of times that that's happened to me is a lot. And I never appreciated it. I always hated it. I thought it was very immature on the male's part. I avoided those people like the plague. It just, yeah, I can't really give you example on words to use to approach them. I don't want you guys to like go through this and be like it's an act, like, oh, I have to say these exact words or this or that. It needs to be natural. It needs to be, you guys need confidence in this area. And if you lack confidence, it's important to gain that confidence through working out. It's important to practice with other people. Girls love a sense of humor. They love a guy who's confident. Guys who aren't confident don't have as much of an opportunity to date the women they want as men who are confident, because women want to be able to rely on the man. They want to be able to feel like they can follow him and they don't need to be pulling him along, or you know what I mean? Like, the man should be, obviously when you get further in the relationship, it's equal when it comes to support and, bolstering and things like that. But in the beginning, the woman really wants to have a man lead her and feel confident in himself. And, so she doesn't have to worry or take care of things. So when you do approach a woman, introduce yourself, ask her some questions about herself, like what does she like to do? How long has she been Catholic? What's her faith journey like? Um, Things like that are really important. And engaging in conversation requires you to ask her questions, and hopefully she'll ask you questions back. But also, this goes for women as well, because I know women are guilty of this too. Know when to quit. Know when a woman or a man is not interested in you and is done with the conversation. Don't try to force it, don't push it. That's only going to make things worse. So you really want to make sure that you know what, when somebody's done with the conversation. For men, when they're done with a conversation, their body language starts to point elsewhere. So instead of facing you, they might reposition themselves in a different way, not all the time. But if they just kind of seem distant, they're not interested in the conversation, just leave it. Honestly, because pushing it's not really going to do anything, and it's definitely not going to help. Um, so I would definitely say that it would just be important to know when to stop talking and to be like, well, it was really nice to meet you. I'll see you around, something very simple like that. So don't script it, because that just makes it weird. Just, try to be as natural as possible. Practice in your room. I know that sounds weird. Practice on your siblings or something. I know it's weird, but if you definitely struggle with confidence, that, you're it's going to be a harder time trying to find somebody. And I don't mean confidence is in like, you have to, women can also tell the difference between fake confidence. Um, I don't mean being like a jerk or like a bro dude or anything like that, but like being humble and, being nice, holding the door open for her, things like that are really important. Um, so yeah, I definitely think it's really important to be just respectful and helpful, and yeah, exactly like Jacob said. Um, and yeah, it's difficult and everybody's different. That's why I can't just give like generalized advice here, because um, everybody's situation is going to be different. Every girl you approach is going to be different. Every boy you approach is going to be different. So it's important to make sure that you're confident in yourself. You can go up to them, ask questions, know when to quit. But if it does go well, just be like, hey, I'd love to get coffee sometime. Is that something you'd be down for? And they might say yes, they might say no. You don't know. But if they do say no, take no for an answer, please. Too many people don't. And I just don't think that that's, you know, appropriate if she says no and or he says no and you continue pestering him about it. It's like, take a hint. You know what I mean? You got to learn the social cues. And I was there too, but I was there in high school. And a lot of the guys that I had to deal with for the last few years, they didn't have they didn't understand social cues. I was clearly done with the conversation and I've been grabbed before to be brought back into the conversation. I've been cornered, I've been grabbed. Like, no, please don't do that. That ruins any and all chances you'll have of finding a future spouse. And this goes for women too. So just be respectful in general. It's really not that difficult. Um, but yeah, the best thing is just not having expectations and to approach it out of just a curiosity. Like, oh, who is this person and what are they like? So there's that one. Hopefully that helped. I go on tangents. I'm sorry, but this is a live stream. We expect this, so it's fine. Okay, our next question. I'm going to take a sip of water though because my voice is grinding out. Vocal fry. That's what it's called. Okay. Hi, Amber. I'd like to say anonymous. What is your opinion on how to proceed when you are really good friends with a quality guy or girl? More than friend feelings are there, but dating isn't an option as of now, yet it could be sometime down the line. What do I do? It's tricky because again, I don't know the whole situation here, and I think that's something that definitely plays a role. Like, why can't you date right now? Is it because of school? Is it because long distance, you guys aren't ready yet? All of those things. Because if it's because you guys are in school and you're going to go to different colleges, in that case, if you're split for like, the college semester or whatever, and you guys find other people, you move on, like you forget about each other, then there's no real problem there. But if you both split, you can't find anyone else and you're not interested in anybody else and you're still interested in each other and that's all you want, that's different. Maybe think about, okay, how could long distance dating work in that situation? Like I said, though, I still don't really know why dating isn't an option right now. I don't know if that's because of school, some other issue. If it's because you guys are too young, I also don't have an age range here. It could be because age difference, maybe. Again, I'm not really sure. I would say if you guys can't date now, but could down the line and you guys are willing, both of you are willing to wait for each other. Like that needs to be a mutual decision on both of your ends. You can't wait for him and he's going off dating people, and he can't wait for you while you're going off and dating people. So if you guys have a mutual understanding, you're going to wait for each other. That is different, especially if you guys are really young. Because I just do not suggest dating in high school, period, because that's just grounds for heartbreak. My fiance and I did a whole video on relationship advice and why dating in high school is not a good idea because, you guys will go to college, high school sweethearts. It happens, but it's very rare. And you just can't assume you're in that small percentage where it'll work out. High school is really a time to find yourself, gain confidence in your hobbies and the things you enjoy. Really work on your relationship with Christ and trying to be the best daughter or son of God for your future, relationships. And most of the time, people just find their spouses in college, or they find it when they go for ministry work through Focus or whatever else it might be. Like that's how a lot of couples find each other. So I would yeah, it's tricky, but if you guys do not have a mutual understanding of that and you're going to wait for him even though he's not ready, like let's say you're ready to date, but he's not ready. Ooh, I don't know about that one, just because sometimes when guys are in their teens, they don't wanna say like, "Oh, I don't wanna date you." So they'll kind of drag girls along a little bit until it's no longer like obvious, until it's like really obvious that they're not going to date you or marry you. That's a forever girlfriends. That's a huge thing nowadays. Um so I if he doesn't really subscribe to the same idea as you, I wouldn't bother waiting for him. Um and vice versa. If you guys come back together down the road later in life and you find each other again and you guys are both in a good situation, you want to date, like that's different. But if one of you is like, "Oh yeah, like I'm going to wait," and the other one is like, then it's not going to work. So just keep that in mind. Pray about it. Go to adoration. And definitely keep the conversation open. I think that's another thing. You have to ask him and be like, what are your intentions with this? You know, if we're not able to date now, but down the line, how far down the line? How far are we talking? You know, and how old are you? Because that depends too. You know, if you're like a teenager, well, that's one thing. But if you're in your 20s and he's saying, like, oh, later, later, well, those are really important, you know, youthful years of your life. And if he's just going to waste your time by dragging you along and not date or pursue marriage with you, that's something you really have to think about. Is that something you're willing to do for a man who's not willing to commit? Um, so again, I don't have all the answers, so take my advice with a grain of salt. I don't know the context. Um, but I will just say that, you know, don't sell yourself short. Make sure that you're both on the same page with that. Keep communication open and ask hard questions. What are your intentions? Do you ever plan on dating? Am I even the type of girl you would be interested in? Those types of things are really important to ask in these situations. So make sure that you guys are on the same page. And if not, I know it's going to be kind of sucky and hard, but honestly, don't sweat it because God does have someone in mind for you, and you will go through ups and downs, you know, all the time. But I definitely think that, you know, it'd be a good idea to even discern religious life. You know, it's great to discern religious life while you're not attached to anybody or tied down. So I would highly suggest that. So, yeah, okay. Moving on to our third help segment of the day. We have 4 of these, so this is the second to last one. Hi, Amber. I'd like to stay anonymous. I'm a younger Catholic convert, and my parents have been supportive, but I've been worried for my father. My father was raised in a small town and is a lukewarm Catholic. Currently, he doesn't go to church but believes God exists. He has liberal views that I don't agree with, but 100% supportive. The main thing that has been consuming my thoughts lately is whether he gets into heaven. I know that if he doesn't make it and I do, I won't remember him, but it still hurts knowing that I won't remember all the memories we had together. It's been the only thing dominating my mind, and I can't do anything without feeling the urge to cry. I know all this won't matter then, but it still hurts, especially now. Your channel has been such a great help to me. God bless, and thank you for your help. Of course, thank you so much. I Yeah, this is tricky. I think having a fear of a loved one going to hell is real. It's a real fear. For just any of us, you know, who have a loved one and we know they're living in sin and we're just distraught over the fact that maybe they won't make it to heaven. Maybe we won't see them in heaven. I know so many people who have this. I have this as well. You know, I have you know, sometimes fear just overcomes me and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what if this person isn't in heaven? So take a deep breath. I think it's really important that we remember that God is merciful. He is just, but he is also merciful. I would highly suggest praying and doing fasting for your father's conversion. Prayer and fasting are so important and they are so powerful when it comes to conversions, especially when they're the prayers of a child, right? Obviously you're not a child, but you are your father's child, right? And so our prayers towards our parents are very efficacious, especially since you're living the faith, you're going to mass, you're receiving the sacraments, you're in a state of grace. Those prayers and those sacrifices are going to be so beneficial to your father, who is going through this time of lukewarmness and has these liberal views. And you never know what kind of miracle could happen through your sacrifices. But I mean, I've heard so many wonderful stories. There was a story of a saint. I forget her name at the moment. Somebody can comment it if they remember from the story I'm about to say or tell. But basically, there was this woman, and her husband was very in living in mortal sin. He wasn't Catholic. There were like a lot of issues, and one day he jumped off a bridge and but she every single day she prayed a rosary for him, and she had a vision, and because of every day she prayed that rosary for him, he was saved. So through the rosary, she was able to save her husband. I don't remember the name of the saint. I could probably Google it, but that would take a hot minute. Uh, let's see. St. John Vianney. I don't remember a woman. She was devastated. Yeah. Okay. So if she wasn't a saint, um, I don't believe, but it was a story with St. John Vianney. And so this is the story. Okay. It goes, a woman told St. John Vianney that she was devastated because her husband committed. She wanted to approach the great priest, but his line often lasted for hours and she could not reach him. She was ready to give up, and in a moment of mystical insight that only a great saint can receive, St. John Vianney exclaimed through the crowd, "He is saved." The woman was incredulous, so the saint repeated, stressing each word, "I tell you, he is saved. He is in purgatory, and you must pray for him." Between the parapet of the bridge and the water, he had time to make an act of contrition. So there's more to that story, but he made an act of contrition, but she also prayed a rosary for him every day. It might be two different stories that I'm thinking of, but that was the main one I was thinking of. There's another one. I think she was French, Jamie. I'm not completely sure though. It's hard when all the stories get kind of wrapped up. But the point is that God is merciful, and final repentance, if somebody gets final repentance, it's so helpful. So make sure that, if when your dad gets older and stuff like that, I mean, we're never promised that we'll have tomorrow, but make sure that he gets the sacraments, invite him to mass with you. I would definitely suggest praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet for your father, and maybe trying to get him to pray it as well, or maybe, uh, I don't know. It's really hard in those situations. I know how you feel. It's really difficult, because you don't want to push them away by pushing your faith on them in a way. You don't want to be naggy or anything, but at the same time, you want to stress the importance of salvation and eternity. And you want them to be with you in all eternity. And God wants us all to be with him in eternity, but we choose where we go. And so I would definitely pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet and the Rosary, do sacrifices and penances for your dad. All of those things do add up, and they save souls so often. Our Lady of Fatima told us that so many souls go to hell because there aren't people who are making sacrifices and aren't praying for them. And so we should really start listening to Our Lady. I think it's been she's appeared to us so many times, Our Lady of La Salette, Our Lady of Akita, Our Lady of Fatima, like so many times telling us to make reparations and to pray and fast. I think at some point we really do need to listen, and I think we're at that point. So yeah, I hope that helps. I know it's a real struggle, but just know that your prayers and your sacrifices, and take communions for your dad. Say, Lord, I take this communion in reparation for my father's sins, for reparation of my sins. Those types of things, and though that's very powerful as well. And so I think it's a huge struggle to overcome it, but also know that anxiety and fear and things are not of God; they are of Satan. God does not have a spirit of anxiety. He does not have a spirit of fear or depression or anything like that. And so we need to just hold out hope. I think hope is very important, and to make those sacrifices for the poor sinners, because there are not enough people making sacrifices and prayers and reparation. So just keep that in mind. And the Divine Mercy Chaplet's super helpful. You can pray it with EWTN, not EWTN, wait, Relevant Radio, with Drew Mariani at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Central Time for me, at least. I'm not sure what it would be for anyone that's not there, but it's 9:50 a.m. if you're in the Chicago area, like this area, Indiana, I think, area. But yeah, Relevant Radio is great. They also have an app. So yeah. Oh, Elizabeth, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher the last name. My fiance would be able to say it. He's French. But okay, maybe it is her. I'm gonna Google that. Elizabeth Lejeune. Lejeune. So yeah, definitely awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, I would suggest those things, and just know that God is merciful and he hears our prayers, and that he loves your father even more than you do. And so it's important to keep that in mind, and just know that our prayers are working, for people's sanctifications. We just might not see it. Okay. Next is, hi, Amber. I'm a 21-year-old guy and I'm very interested in the Catholic faith. I plan on meeting one-on-one with a priest this week to discuss entering the church. A few months ago, I was led into the Catholic Church by a very good friend and cradle Catholic. For anonymous's sake, I'll call her Christina. I shared with her my relationship with Jesus in my life, but I was still struggling with finding a church to go to. She offered to take me to Mass, and unbeknownst to me, she brought her entire family, who showed me so much love and acceptance that I cried tears of joy on the way home. I have found my heart growing and being pulled towards Christina, but she is dating a guy who is of a very different faith. She has sent what I receive as signs that she's interested in me, gifts from trips she went on, almost constantly communicating through apps like Snapchat. I am absolutely blind to most signs from girls, so take it for what it is. I'm trying to give it up to God and let his will be done. Should I look elsewhere even though I feel pulled towards her, or should I wait it out and see what God has in store for us? God bless. So, um, yeah, thank you for this. This is a tricky one too. I know this was a while ago, so things have probably changed by now. So please write back in if things have changed and stuff. Take my advice with a grain of salt here. But if she's in a relationship, you'll have to respect that. If she's interested in you and she's pursuing you, but she's still in this relationship, that's kind of a red flag emotionally. Now, she could just be doing these things to be nice. I've gone on trips before where I've given my guy friends, rosaries or little trinkets here and there that I've collected that made me think of them, but not all the time. Sometimes I would think of something, I'd be like, oh, that reminds me of John, or oh, that reminds me of Chloe, or whatever, but they were never like romantic gifts. They were more like gag gifts, probably, or something spiritual. When it comes to constant communication through apps like Snapchat, I don't um I don't it's not great, because if she is in a relationship with a guy who's in a different faith, she's still in a relationship. And in a way, it's still like emotionally cheating. It's not cheating, but it could be seen as emotional cheating, where maybe she's not getting what she needs out of her current relationship with her boyfriend who is not of the same faith. And so she is getting that from you, but that's not appropriate. She should be getting that from her boyfriend, or she needs to break up with him. She can't keep leading him on while also getting what she wants spiritually from you. That's not right, because then in a way she's also using you. Now, I don't really know the whole situation here. I only have your side, so I can't be like, oh, well, she just meant that to be friendly. Wasn't there. Don't know. Some girls genuinely are trying to be nice and think that they're just doing something nice, but in reality, they do like that person. Um, and when I went through something similar back in 2022, um, ish, kind of. I was dating a guy and he wasn't Catholic, and I went on this trip, basically, and I wasn't getting spiritually what I needed from my relationship with him, and I knew that. And when I went on this trip, I met a bunch of people who were very strong in their Catholic faith, who were very they were feeding me with Catholicism and my faith, and I just felt so rejuvenated. And there was one person I specifically gravitated towards, and I didn't I it's like having a friend crush almost, but I was so hungry just for good Catholic discussion that I kind of started liking this guy. And I was just like, "Whoa, wait, I'm dating somebody else," and obviously I cut that off after the trip. We texted here or there, but it was only business. It wasn't anything else. And once I came back from my trip, I had no attachment to that person, but I realized that I was like emotionally cheating, because I wasn't getting something out of my own relationship that I desperately needed. It wasn't like oh, I can live without it. No, I needed that. And in order to realize that, I had to go on this trip, and I met these people and I gravitated towards that person and I was really drawn to them. So when I realized that, I realized like, okay, if I can't get what I need out of this relationship spiritually, it's not going to work. And obviously it didn't work. And then, I met Max and we hit it off really well. But the main thing being that emotional cheating does happen a lot. People don't realize they're guilty of it, but it's just it's hard these days. If you're not getting something out of the relationship that you need to communicate that to your boyfriend or girlfriend. If you're married, you guys got to work that out. Maybe go to marriage counseling. But it's really important that you guys work that out, because if you don't get it out of your relationship, you're going to find it elsewhere. And that's not healthy, and it can lead to emotional cheating and sometimes real cheating. So luckily a lot of people never get that far, but if she is emotionally cheating because she's not getting what she needs out of her relationship, you have to tell her like, hey, I notice we just talk a lot and everything, but I want to be respectful of your relationship. um I just feel like you're we're really close, but that's not really appropriate since like you're in a relationship. And people will say like, "Oh, I can still hang out with my guy friends one on one while I'm in a relationship." That is so immature. That is high school behavior. That isn't appropriate. I I have just such I just so it's different if you're how do I say this? It depends on each person, but let's say, um, there's no, I can't even think of a situation where it would be okay. Like, I genuinely can't unless your person comes with you. And that's not a controlling thing. It's called respecting your relationship and respecting the person you're in the relationship with. It doesn't mean that that person is insecure. It just means that they value your relationship, and it's not a good image to go out with a person one on one without the person you're dating. Like, it just doesn't look good. Like, of the opposite sex, not of the same. Obviously, you can go out with your girlfriends, you can go out with your guy friends, if you're a guy or whatever. But if you are a guy who's dating a girl and you're hanging out with a single girl, or even a girl who's in another relationship, like, that doesn't look good. That's just not something we should be doing. And people are always just like, "Oh, but no, it's fine because I don't have any romantic feelings." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't. It's the principle of the thing, right? It's about what it's about what it communicates to the other people around you. Um and it just shows that you don't respect your relationship. That's what it communicates. And people can say like, "Oh, that's different for me," it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you view it differently. It's what it communicates. And I've been there before where I used to hang out with my friends, my guy friends, one on one, and I always felt weird about it. I always felt weird. It wasn't like, I'd go see one of my friends in a play, or I'd see them play in a concert. That was different. I'd see them for a little bit afterwards. But then when I would you know, uh hang out with them one on one, we would basically go on dates. But it wasn't a date because we were just friends, but it just definitely communicated that I did not care about the relationship I was in at the time. And in some ways, I didn't, and that was on me because I was very hurt in that relationship. And instead of understanding how toxic that relationship was and just breaking it off and moving on, I convinced myself that having these, friendships with other guys was okay. And in reality, it wasn't. And obviously, I was a teenager back then. I was 15, 16, 17. So back then obviously I didn't have the maturity to understand that, but I'm in my 20s now, and a lot of people are in their 20s now who still do this, and it's just not appropriate. So that's something you really need to think about. And don't let her use you. Don't let yourself be used. um because I'm sure she's a wonderful person and she probably just doesn't realize she's doing it, but it's something you really need to look out for. So, my advice would just be to be honest with her and be like, hey, I know you're in a relationship. I just don't feel comfortable with us texting this much or having, this much while you're in a relationship because, again, somebody you text every single day who is not of the same sex as you, I mean, it's not a good look, So it communicates a lot. But yeah, that's basically my 2 cents on all of that. So, anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. It's not a video. I'm actually here. Hello. I wish I could stay on and answer some more of your guys' questions. However, I do have to pop off to do some housework. My sister's going to get back from taking my dad from treatment to and from treatment, so I have to start making lunch for them and things like that. But again, if um oh my gosh. If you guys want to be on one of the help episodes, you guys can email me at thereligioushippie@gmail.com. And then you can just put help in the subject line so that I know it's for the help segment. So, really appreciate you guys hopping on here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I will talk